everybody. Welcome back to the Kilby Life. I am Elizabeth, and I have a friend here with me today to talk about how we are looking at food maybe a little bit differently. Before we get into that, I just want to say thank you to Element for sponsoring this video. Element is a tasty electrolyte drink with all the good stuff that you want and none of the junk. They have this new chocolate medley out right now. Each little packet has 1,000 milligrams of sodium, 200 milligrams of potassium, and 60 milligrams of magnesium. These ones are designed to be drinking hot, and it tastes like a great cup of hot chocolate. If you order using our link that we'll put on the screen, it's drinkelement.com/Kilby, drinklmnt.com/Kilby. They will send you one of these sample packs with any order. It's a great way to try out a bunch of their flavors to decide what you really like, and then you can go get some more. So definitely check those out if you haven't, but always remember to use that link when you order to get that free sample pack and maybe try out something new that you haven't tried before. Today, I am so excited to have my friend Nellie with me from Nelly Needs Meat. I'm going to bring her in right now. Hello there.
Hello.
How are you doing today?
I am doing pretty good. It was a good, busy day.
Yeah. You sent me a message this morning with your whole list of things that was going on.
Yeah. And then there were a couple extra things thrown in there.
There always is. I mean, there always is.
Yeah.
Well, we are going to specifically talk today a little bit about some food categories that you use when you are planning meals and deciding what to eat. You had told me about this months ago, and it has just stuck in the back of my brain as what a valuable tool and what an interesting way to kind of look at things other than the normal, like just macros and stuff like that, and different ways that we kind of are used to looking at things, but something that's way more specific to you.
Right.
So how do you do that? Tell me about it.
So this kind of started actually, I would say within the first month that I had started keto. I had already determined, I'm going to be on this for the rest of my life. This is just how I eat now. Mm-hmm. But we had several get-togethers within the first 3 weeks of me being on keto. So, I mean, I'm like, how am I going to manage this? So the first one was a birthday party, and I had already decided ahead of time I wasn't going to have any cake because cake is sugar, right? And that falls under the category of carbs. So if it's carbs, I'm not eating it. I know it's off limits for me. And that was a huge thing, was if I knew something was off limits, I'm not going to have it because it's not good for me, right? So anyway, like at the second party that we were at, I come downstairs and there's like loads of food everywhere. Everyone brought a dessert. Thank you everyone for bringing dessert and never taking anything home. So, but it was the idea too of that night. It's like, okay, that's carbs, that's carbs, that's carbs. I made something specifically for myself that I knew I could have that wasn't off plan, and that, was fine. So that's the first category. So even if we're at a restaurant, I don't have a problem ordering at a restaurant. I don't have a problem with the menu or anything. I'll look for something that is generally meat heavy, and then I find whatever falls in the carb category, and then I remove that.
Okay.
So when I'm ordering, that's how I do it. And same thing at parties. It's like I just avoid anything that falls under the carb category.
So your first category is kind of like carbs and sugars, and those are just absolutely no question about it. We're not eating it.
Right. So it's like French fries. It's not that I never had them since I've been on this diet, but I have learned, it's like, well, there's a reason they fall in that category of don't ever touch because you can't stop.
Right.
So, Yep. So it's so annoying. Mm-hmm. So the other category I have is indigestion. And now I'm a bit different from a lot of people who start this diet. There's a lot of people who start it I know Aaron he didn't want to be diabetic anymore.
Right.
There's other people who start it because they're trying to lose a lot of weight. For me, it wasn't about weight loss. It was, how do I feel?
Right.
And I could just make the category that name is how do I feel, but I labeled it indigestion. So if I know something specifically is going to cause me indigestion, I will avoid it. And I've learned over the past, we're going on 5 years now, most vegetables, some spices. So like nutmeg's a major problem. It's like I can have a dash, but even that dash, I'll still be tasting 4 hours later. So I have a very sensitive stomach, and like I said, I want to feel good.
Right.
I think it was about 2 years ago, that was when I started thinking about that idea. So I had already been doing the diet for at least, 2 years at that point. And I remember I'd had like cucumbers, and I had it with this really, really good buffalo chicken dip, which I don't have the recipe up for that yet. I'll get there eventually. But anyway, so I was using the cucumbers as a chip. You got the crunch to go along with the creamy dip. It was like the perfect combination.
Sure.
But the thing is, I had such terrible indigestion. I was bloated. I felt kind of like not exactly sick to my stomach. I just didn't feel good.
Yeah.
Yeah, for like 8 hours afterwards. And
That's
I'm like,
not good. That's too long to
No,
feel good.
no. And I thought maybe it was the spices, like maybe it was the hot sauce,
Right.
but it was not.
I was going to say cucumbers are certainly not worth feeling not good for 8 hours.
No,
Not worth it.
Yeah. So I've had people too suggest, well, this happened since you went on the diet. Then you just became sensitive. It's like, no, this has been my whole life.
That's me. Yeah.
Yep. And it's like, it's not like I just suddenly became sensitive to it. I could look back, and I actually have records of me writing it down where it's like, oh my goodness, I spent the day burping a salad, and just not fun.
Yay.
So yeah, I know, right? The healthy salad.
Right. And so I'm curious, like something specifically like that example, how do you narrow down that it was the cucumbers? Like what kind of process do you go through to say it was the cucumbers and not the spices or not the specific mixture?
Mm-hmm.
How do you get to that point?
If I can taste it still. It's terrible.
Okay.
It sounds disgusting, but like after 8 hours, I can still, me and my husband went out to dinner the one night. 4 hours later, I was still tasting garlic. Garlic was only on one thing that I ate.
Okay.
But I could still taste the garlic 4 hours later. And it's like, that's what I'm burping. It's terrible. So I hate it because it's so unladylike, it's like, oh, but yeah, anyway, that's how, if I can still burp it and taste it 4 hours later, that's the cutoff. I'm done. So fried foods falls under that. Like even if I got fried cheese when I'm out, if I'm burping the oils, which it does that all the time now anyway. So it's like I think it's the canola oil or whatever they're frying it in. It's just terrible.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Okay.
I was going to say there were more categories, but I can't remember.
Yeah. So carbs and sugars are no-goes. Then we have like the foods that cause indigestion. And then Erin and I have been having discussions about like no guilt foods a lot. Like, do you have any foods that are just, I know you're careful about quantity, but do you have any foods that you're like, these are okay anytime, no big deal? Like they're always okay.
Cheese. That's one of the foods. Well, I stay away from like the stronger cheeses. So like blue cheese, I know that's one of the ones that falls under indigestion.
Okay.
But mozzarella, cheddar, Colby, Munster, all of those are fine. I don't have any problems with those. If I was hungry at night and I know I can't fit in a meal, I'll have cheese, and that's no big deal. So that's one of the things that I know is absolutely 100% safe. Cheese has never done me wrong.
Which is so interesting because we were just talking about beforehand, like Erin has such weird reactions to cheese, inflammation, and just it doesn't make him feel good. And again, he's kind of done the same thing where he's ruled out other things and kind of always comes back to it's the cheese.
Yep. I would be so sad, but I say it's like, well, God hasn't steered me wrong yet with the things he's led me to give up. So if he asked me if he told me I need to give up cheese, I would give it up. I hope that doesn't ever happen, but whatever.
Please don't test me, but
yeah.
Well, and I feel like you're more mature than I am because I mean, I know some things it's taken you a while still to get there, but I will like fight tooth and nail to not have to get rid of more stuff. And I'm like, at some point, I'm going to have to just say, like, if this isn't good for me or I don't feel good, like, I need to just acknowledge that. And when I wasn't eating eggs and stuff, that was easy because I don't like eggs. Yeah. But stuff that I like, I'm like, I don't want to give it up.
Well, I do get that, though. And I had, there's that little self inside that's throwing a fit because, when I first came across the idea of having to give up sugar, that should have fallen under the carbs idea that I should never have it.
Right.
But I had reasoned it out in my mind that I can still have it every once in a while. And then I noticed that I wasn't feeling good. And I actually have it written down where I was praying. I'm like, Lord, do I have to give up sweets for the rest of my life? I mean, I think I've done a pretty good job. I lost the weight. And it's like, well, the weight has nothing to do with it. It's how does it make you feel?
Right.
So I specifically wrote down the prayer, well, Lord, if I'm meant to give it up, please show me and help me to have a good attitude.
Maybe
that
that's
was the
the part
problem.
I'm missing.
Yep. That was always the problem. So,
Yeah.
and I mean, it took 7 months after that prayer before I was ready to do it, before I was mentally ready. So it took a while.
Yeah. See, and I feel like anytime I know I'm coming into like, and every time I've done a carnivore challenge or even that elimination diet, it's been stuff I've decided for myself. But I feel like as I'm walking into it, I'm like kicking and screaming, like, I'm a grown up. I get to eat what I want. Like, like, you know, like a 4-year-old would.
Yep.
I don't know. It's no good.
I get it.
Yeah.
And I mean, for certain things, it takes longer to give up. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like the cucumbers, it was just one day to another. And I'm like, well, I'm fine with that. But sugar? Oh, that was hard.
Yeah. So do you feel like this category system might be helpful for people that are trying to figure out how to best figure out what diet works for them or what way of eating works for them, where, you know, maybe they aren't going complete carnivore, but how would you recommend that people would start figuring these things out and trying to pay attention to what kind of falls into where for them?
Right. So it's like, if you can have like the broad umbrella category of like carbs, say just, I mean, we all know what the big carbs are. It's any sweets. And then of course the starches, you know, the potatoes, the bread, the pasta, et cetera, et cetera. If you can grab onto the idea in your mind, those things are off limits for me. I feel like you'd have a lot easier, because the thing is, so this was what took me so long to give up the sugar, was because I had a special little space for it in my mind.
Yeah.
That it's like, I can have that every once in a while. So I see like a lot of people when they go off the diet for Thanksgiving and Christmas and New Year's, they've got that little space in their mind where they're like, well, I can still have it every once in a while.
Mm-hmm.
And then they realize, oh crap, you know, I just went completely off the rails, you know, because I thought I could have it, but then now it's been 2 weeks and I feel terrible. So if you can really hold on to that idea of like, no, this is off limits. And I mean, you don't even have to put a time limit on it. You don't have to say it's off limits forever. Don't think of it like that. It's like, right now, this is off limits because that's best for me.
Right.
And I think that's how I would hang. Well, I mean, that was the best way that worked for me. It's like, I haven't had a slice of bread in over 4 years.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And I think it's interesting too, like you were saying before I did any of the carnivore challenges or the elimination diet, I don't think I could have, I feel like I was putting so much junk into my body that I couldn't have pinpointed things if I wanted to. And so like you were saying, I don't think doing those challenges like caused me to have issues, but it helped me be aware of it.
Yes, it definitely opens up your eyes, because I mean, that was how I kind of fell into more of a meat heavy version of keto.
Mm-hmm.
After about 1 year in, I took up a carnivore challenge. And for 1 month, it was like, and I mean, to me, carnivore, you know, all dairy falls under carnivore. So yeah. But, and I was doing spices. Oh yeah. I was doing spices too. So it wasn't like, you know, the hardcore hardliners. But when I started bringing back in the vegetables after that challenge, I was like, you know, I'm really not okay with this indigestion. I'm not okay with how broccoli makes me feel. Like, and it's not that doing the challenge brought it on. It's that I was putting up with it before because I didn't think that I could do without those things. Mm-hmm. You know, in my mind, I'm thinking, well, these are healthy foods, so therefore I need to have them. And I've since completely abandoned that idea. It's like, no, for me, the healthiest foods are meat. You know, everything else is just gravy. So, yeah.
After the elimination diet, I added back in cabbage, and I have found that I really like ground beef and cabbage, like very heavily salted, like a lot of like that smoked salt. I
Yeah.
use that a lot. And so tonight I had chili for dinner, which was pretty clean. There wasn't a lot of carby things in there. And as I was sitting there eating, I'm like, I'd rather be eating a plate of ground beef and cabbage. Like, it was weird to me because, like,
Yeah.
I know I'll feel good. I'll feel filled up. I know that it's like a long lasting, fill up instead of just like it goes away quick. And I'm like, okay, now what? And it's interesting because I fully expected to be completely tired of eating beef and cabbage because this has been going on, since October?
Right.
But it's still kind of my go-to of things that I can eat that I know will make me feel good and won't hurt me. Whereas other things, it's like, especially dinner time stuff, I'll eat it and I'm hungry not that long later or whatever else. I'm like, oh, it's because it wasn't meat heavy enough. It was acceptable vegetables, but it wasn't enough meat, I think is what I'm finding.
I found that out very early on because, we did a lot of keto recipes, and I remember specifically spaghetti squash. Everyone was doing spaghetti squash because it replaced spaghetti. It does not replace spaghetti, which now I don't even want to go back to spaghetti because I'm like, it's kind of gummy. It's pasty. There's no flavor to it. Just give me the sauce that I was going to put on it, But I found that like with more vegetable heavy meals, I'm just like, it's not appetizing. Not that it tastes bad. It's just not appetizing anymore. And I needed something that was more meat heavy. And I find, like, I was going to say too, it's like, to be 100% transparent here. So I make recipes, I put them out every week, but it's funny because it's like, I'll try all these new recipes. Only some of them make it into the rotation.
Oh yeah.
And it's not because they're bad. They were good when I made it, but I'm always going to go back to the things that it's like, yeah, that was good, but this is delicious and I can eat it every day. And it's simple to make, So I made one of those recipes tonight that's going to make it into the rotation. So
Yay.
That's very exciting.
For anybody that does not follow her channel, she recently made a meat cake. You need to go check this thing out. Tell us what was in it.
So it was 3 layers. Bottom layer, I call them mixes, but it's like whatever I throw in for meatballs, that was the bottom layer. Whatever I throw in for sausage bites, that was the next layer. And then the top layer, or I got to mix up. But anyway, there was a chicken nugget layer. So I instead baked them like you would like a cake layer, and then trimmed them down and frosted it up with cream cheese and butter. And like, you could eat it like that, but to me, the best way to eat it is like, I'll chop it up and I'll throw it in a pan, and the cream cheese and the butter will melt and the meat gets crispy, and it's just fabulous.
Yeah. So the cake part is just kind of for display, but then you still want to heat it up. And
yes. It's just, and that's the thing. It's like some of the people are like, oh, I could see serving this at a party. And I'm like, you can, but that's only if people like eating cold meat.
Only if you have like a frying pan next to it.
Yes. Reheat it yourself.
I think that's interesting too, because once you know what foods are okay, there's so much freedom and creativity in that. So you could do them different ways and still stick with these foods that are going to leave you feeling good, instead of going back to recipes with stuff that either leave you wanting or leave you not feeling well afterwards. And I feel like, for me, it takes me a while to get that through my head, where I'm like, yeah, I might enjoy eating it, but long term, this isn't working. This isn't something
I'm not going to keep going back.
I think I need to be a little bit quicker to be willing to get rid of things.
I still want to try. I did get cabbage this week, and I was debating on doing like the ground beef and cabbage, but I'm like, I just didn't have the energy this time. And I was already making 2 meals, and I'm like, down the road, I'm going to try the ground beef and cabbage.
Yeah. So when I do the cabbage, I slice it super thin and put it in the oven at like 400 until it gets crispy on the edges. So it's not like soggy. It's like, it's good.
Okay. Now you're talking to me. That's what I want. I've always loved oven roasted vegetables.
Yeah.
And cabbage is one of those. Oh yeah. Cabbage is one of those vegetables that it's like, you think it would give me bad indigestion. Doesn't. I don't know.
It's so weird. It's so weird.
Yeah. Yep.
Hmm.
Yep.
Interesting.
Yeah. So cabbage and tomatoes make the cut, but lots of other things don't. Yeah. That's
Well,
okay.
there you go. Well, see, so what if I were going to recap? I would say, so what we need to do is figure out what stuff we're just absolutely cutting out, and give our bodies time to acclimate to that. And then after we do, we will start to see the things that feel okay, the things that make us feel bad, and I think then we will have the space to be able to acknowledge it.
Right.
Whereas before, it's probably being masked by all the other stuff that doesn't make us feel good either.
Yeah. Yep. And I mean, once you get things narrowed down, once you get things narrowed down, it's so much easier to pick out the problem child. You know what I mean? Yeah. It's so much easier to pick out what's causing the problem and how it's making you feel. And it's like, well, it's like you, when you're eating like your ground beef and cabbage and your eggs in the morning and stuff, you might bring something else in and you're like, blah, that's not what I want.
That was no bueno.
No.
Yeah. I like it. Well, I appreciate you hanging out with me tonight and sharing that wisdom. I think we would all benefit from paying attention to our bodies.
Yes. Yep. Definitely.
All right. And again, if you haven't checked out Nellie's channel, go check her out. She's at Nelly Needs Meat with tons of recipes, lots of various thoughts and things that'll make watch the video and then all day long your brain will be going about these different things that she brings up. There's a lot of good stuff over there. So definitely go and check that out. And again, thanks for being here tonight.
Thanks for having me.
Happy little side dishes. Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
They're just accompaniments.
Yeah. There was something I was going to say, and now I can't remember what it was.
Sorry.
That's okay. Aaron can edit this part out.
And you know he won't.
He might. He loves me sometimes. No. What was I going to say? Oh, my goodness.
I don't know, but this will give me a second to take my jacket off because I'm about to die. I was so cold when I got in here, but now oh, my goodness.
Yeah, it's actually warm out here for once.
Yeah, okay.
There we go.
That feels better.
Oh.